They all knew it as the most boring assignment on the entire base. Guarding the supply room. No action, no challenge, no importance. For most, it was punishment detail, a place to send someone who wasn't ready for the real fight. But that night, when Private First Class Anna Delgado was told to guard the supply room, nobody expected her to uncover a secret infiltration that threatened the entire base. The quarters at Camp Silver Point were quiet that night. It was past 2300 hours. Lights dimmed, most personnel either asleep or catching a few precious hours of rest before another grueling day. The supply building stood at the far end of the compound, a squat concrete structure with no windows and only a single corridor leading in. Inside, Private First Class Anna Delgado sat on a folding chair, her rifle resting across her knees. At 23, Anna had sharp green eyes and dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. At 5 feet 5 inches and lean built, she didn't stand out much to the other soldiers. They called her the Librarian because she kept to herself, spoke quietly, and never caused trouble. Most soldiers hated guard duty, especially guarding a supply room, but Anna didn't complain. She'd been raised in a family where responsibility mattered more than recognition. Her father had once told her, "How you do the small things determines how you'll do the big things." So she did the small things well. She checked her rifle, made her rounds, logged each hour. She even noticed the little details. The hum of the refrigeration units keeping medical supplies stable, the faint smell of oil and canvas from the storage crates, the flickering fluorescent bulb near the far wall. To Anna, every detail mattered. That's why she noticed when the air felt wrong. It started as a sound barely audible, not the usual groans of the building settling or the whine of distant generators. This was sharper, metallic, almost like a latch sliding open. Anna stood, rifle in hand. She scanned the rows of stacked crates. Everything looked normal, but the sound had come from the far side of the supply room, near the maintenance hatch that no one ever used. Her pulse quickened, but her breathing stayed steady. She walked softly, boots barely scraping the concrete floor. When she reached the hatch, she crouched. The lock looked untouched, but her fingertips brushed faint residue along the handle. Grease. Fresh. Someone had touched this recently. Her instincts screamed. She moved back into the shadows and waited. 2 minutes later, the hatch creaked. Slowly, silently, it opened just enough for a gloved hand to slip through. Then another. Anna's heart hammered, but she didn't move. She counted silently. 1, 2, 3, 4, until the first shadowed figure slid fully inside. Black uniform, no insignia, night vision goggles glinting faint green in the dim light. Not one of theirs. Within 30 seconds, 3 more followed. They moved with precision, silent, professional, methodical. These weren't looters or pranksters. These were trained infiltrators, and they were inside her supply room. Anna tightened her grip on the rifle. Her mind raced. She was alone. 4 intruders, no backup. Radios were forbidden during night guard to prevent unnecessary noise interference. She had no way to call for help without revealing herself. She remembered her drill instructor's words. The first one to panic is the first one to die. Control your fear. Make it a tool. So she did. She became still, focused, invisible. The infiltrators began scanning crates, pulling open boxes, checking serial numbers. One of them muttered in a language Anna couldn't place. She caught fragments. Target list. Explosives. Extraction. Her blood went cold. They weren't just here to steal supplies. They were here to sabotage. Maybe worse. Anna knew she had only moments to decide. Engage now and risk being outnumbered, or wait and gather intelligence. She chose patience. She watched as one of them planted a small device on a crate marked medical equipment, sterile. Another whispered something and pulled out what looked like a satchel charge. This wasn't theft. This was preparation for an attack. Anna's fingers brushed the trigger of her rifle. Her orders were clear: guard the supply room. But her duty was clear: protect the base. And in that moment, she realized she wasn't just guarding boxes. She was the only thing standing between 4 armed infiltrators and an entire base full of sleeping soldiers. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Not on my watch." And then she stepped out of the shadows. The first infiltrator spotted her. His night vision goggles flared faint green as his head snapped up. He froze mid-motion, one gloved hand still pressing a satchel charge against the crate. Anna raised her rifle, the barrel steady despite the pounding in her chest. "Hands where I can see them," she ordered, her voice firm and sharp, carrying through the supply room like a whip crack. The other 3 turned instantly. Weapons came up, short, suppressed rifles fitted with optics. These weren't amateurs. They reacted like soldiers who had done this before. Anna didn't flinch. "Drop the weapons now!" For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then one of them, a tall man with a scar visible even beneath his goggles, chuckled darkly. "You're alone," he said in accented English. "Bad decision." Anna's finger pressed against the trigger. "Try me." The silence shattered. The nearest intruder swung his rifle up. Anna fired first. The crack of her M4 ripped through the supply room, echoing off concrete walls. The man went down hard, his rifle clattering across the floor. Chaos exploded. The other 3 opened fire, bullets slamming into crates, splintering wood, tearing through canvas. Anna dove behind a stack of supply bins, her shoulders slamming against the steel. Dust rained down as rounds chewed into the metal. She controlled her breathing, switched magazines, and leaned out just enough to return fire. One short burst, 2 rounds found their mark, forcing another intruder into cover. "Push left!" One of them barked in that same accented English. They were moving to flank her. Anna shifted position, sliding low across the concrete, boots slipping in the dust. She ducked behind another stack of crates, heart hammering, but focus razor sharp. She wasn't just firing blindly. She was thinking, calculating angles, remembering every lesson drilled into her. Her instructors had taught her that combat wasn't about size or strength. It was about awareness, timing, and the will to act. She waited, listening. The intruders thought they had her pinned. She could hear their boots scraping against the floor as they spread out. The first shadow rounded the crate. Anna moved fast. She struck the barrel of his weapon upward with her rifle, slamming her knee into his midsection. He folded forward, air blasting out of his lungs. She brought the butt of her rifle down across his back, sending him crashing face first onto the concrete. 2 down. The remaining 2 opened fire again, one laying suppressive fire while the other darted toward the planted satchel charges. Her stomach dropped. They weren't just fighting her. They were trying to complete their mission. If that charge went off, half the supply building would vanish, and with it, the critical medical stores that hundreds of soldiers depended on. Anna sprinted from cover, firing in controlled bursts. One round struck the suppressor of the rifle, aiming her way, the weapon jerking off target. Sparks flew as rounds ricocheted off steel shelving. The infiltrator by the charge turned, raising a pistol. Anna dropped to one knee and fired. The shot slammed into his chest plate, knocking him backward. He hit the floor with a grunt, weapons skittering across the room. 3 down. The last man, the scarred leader, snarled and launched himself forward. He hit her like a sledgehammer, knocking her rifle aside. The 2 of them crashed into a stack of crates, wood splintering around them. Anna grunted, twisting as he tried to pin her. He was stronger, heavier. His gloved hands wrapped around her throat, squeezing. Her vision tunneled. Black spots swam across her eyes. But she didn't panic. Her training screamed louder than the fear. She drove her thumbs hard into the soft flesh beneath his goggles, forcing his grip to loosen. She twisted, grabbing her combat knife from her belt, and slashed across his arm. He roared, jerking back just enough for her to roll free. She snatched her rifle, spun, and leveled it at his chest. "Don't," she hissed. For a long moment, neither moved. Rain of dust and splintered wood filled the air. Finally, the man lifted his hand slowly, blood dripping from his arm. "You fight like one of us," he growled. "But this isn't over." "Wrong," Anna said. "It's over right now." She fired once. The scarred man collapsed against the crate, motionless. The supply room fell silent again, except for Anna's ragged breathing. 4 infiltrators neutralized. Satchel charges still intact but disarmed. She scanned the room quickly, rifle sweeping left and right, making sure there were no more hidden enemies. When she was sure the immediate threat was neutralized, she locked the steel hatch shut with a bar and dragged 2 heavy crates in front of it. Her hands trembled as the adrenaline bled out, but she forced herself to focus. This wasn't finished. If 4 had made it inside, there might be more outside, and the base was still completely unaware. She had one choice: secure the explosives, hold the supply room, and wait for reinforcements, or risk breaking cover to alert command herself. Either way, she knew the truth. Guarding the supply room was no punishment. Tonight, it was the front line of a war no one else had seen coming. Minutes ticked by. Then the sound came. Clink. The hatch handle rattled. A sharp metallic ping echoed in the stillness. Someone outside was trying the lock. Anna crouched behind her barricade, rifle raised, her heartbeat a drum in her ears. "Come on," she whispered under her breath. "Open it. See what happens." The hatch jolted once, then twice. Finally, silence again. Anna frowned. They weren't forcing it. They were waiting. Her blood ran cold. "They know I'm in here." She forced herself to focus. If they were regrouping outside, that meant the base had less time than she thought. She needed to find a way to warn command without compromising her position. Her eyes fell on the locator beacon. The device blinked faintly, searching for a network. She picked it up, turned it over in her hands. Maybe she could reverse it, feed a false signal, lead whoever was tracking it away from the supply room. Her fingers flew over the small circuit panel. She wasn't a technician, but she'd had field training in electronic warfare. She rerouted a wire, twisted another free, and forced the module to send a constant pulse with altered coordinates. The beacon now pointed to the far side of the compound near the fuel depot. "Chase the wrong fire," she muttered. But the real fire was still smoldering. As Anna set the beacon down, she noticed something etched faintly into the satchel bag. A symbol, crudely drawn but unmistakable. A wolf's head. Her blood went cold. She knew that insignia. It belonged to the Black Wolves, a paramilitary group notorious for carrying out covert raids against NATO outposts. They were ghosts, specialists in sabotage, infiltration, and psychological warfare. If the Black Wolves were here, this wasn't some random attack. This was the opening move in a campaign, and she was standing in the middle of their first strike. Anna adjusted her grip on the rifle. She whispered to herself, steady and calm, the way she always did before a storm. "You wanted to guard the supply room. Fine. But tonight, it's the front line." And outside, the scrape of boots on concrete grew louder. The steel hatch rattled again, harder this time. Anna crouched behind her barricade, rifle raised. Sweat stung her eyes, though the room was cold. She wiped her brow with a gloved hand and focused. The door didn't burst open immediately. Instead, she heard muffled voices outside. Calm, organized, disciplined. The wolves weren't rushing in blind. They were planning. That realization set her heart pounding harder. They knew she was inside. They knew she was armed. They would come prepared. The first breach came sudden and violent. A dull thud shook the hatch, then another. On the third hit, sparks showered from the lock as a shaped charge detonated. The steel bent inward, but held. Anna braced. She had stacked crates to form a funnel just beyond the entryway. If they came in, they'd be forced into a narrow kill zone. The hatch finally gave way with a shriek of tortured metal. A figure pushed through, rifle sweeping side to side. Anna exhaled, squeezed the trigger. The shot slammed him back into the doorway. More boots thundered forward. "Hold the line," she whispered. Muzzle flashes lit the room as wolves poured fire into the barricades. Splinters flew from wooden crates. Shards of concrete chipped off the walls. Anna kept low, firing in short bursts. Each shot had to count. Her ammunition was limited. 2 more went down in the funnel, their bodies tangling with crates and blocking the door. The wolves outside dragged them back, regrouping. Anna reloaded, hands steady despite the chaos. Her father's words echoed again. Small things well, big things possible. A moment of silence fell, then a hiss. Smoke grenades clattered into the room, rolling across the floor. White clouds billowed, filling the air, choking her vision. Anna yanked her gas mask from her belt and snapped it on. She blinked through the haze, rifle steady. She could hear them moving. 3, maybe 4. The first shape lunged out of the smoke. She fired twice, dropping him. Another burst came from her left. Bullets ripped into the barricade inches from her head. She dropped low, rolled behind a stack of ammo boxes, and fired back. Her shots found their target. The figure crumpled, but she was running out of time, out of ammo, out of options. The wolves weren't trying to take the room anymore. They were trying to wear her down. Every second they kept her pinned was another second closer to reinforcements arriving for them. Then through the smoke, she saw it. One of the wolves was crawling toward the disruptor device she had disarmed. He was trying to reset it. "No," she growled. She leaped from cover, tackled him to the floor. The two of them wrestled, his gloved hands clawing at her mask, her knees slamming into his ribs. He rolled her over, tried to pin her. She jammed her elbow into his throat, ripped his sidearm free, and fired point blank. The shot echoed like thunder in the confined space. The wolf went limp. Anna shoved him aside, chest heaving. That had been too close. Then came the roar. It started faint, like distant thunder. Then it grew, a heavy, unmistakable thumping that rattled the walls. Helicopters. She yanked off her mask, eyes wide with relief. Reinforcements. The wolves heard it too. Shouts erupted outside the supply room. Boots pounded in retreat. Whoever was left had no intention of being caught between Anna and incoming air support. Minutes later, Marines stormed the supply room. "Room secure," one shouted, sweeping the corners. Anna lowered her rifle, her arms trembling with exhaustion. She pulled off her helmet, letting the cool night air hit her sweat-soaked hair. "Private Delgado," the Marine lieutenant barked. "Yes, sir." He scanned the room. Bodies of infiltrators, dismantled devices, crates riddled with bullet holes. "You did all this?" Anna swallowed hard. "I was ordered to guard the supply room, sir." The lieutenant let out a low whistle. "Well, Private, consider it guarded." The aftermath was swift. The devices were collected, the bodies removed, the hatch sealed. Intelligence officers descended on the room within the hour, their faces grim when they saw the wolf head insignia. The Black Wolves hadn't hit a U.S. installation in years, until tonight. But the report contained one undeniable truth. A lone private had held the supply room against overwhelming odds. Without her, the base would have lost its lifeline, its medical stores, its ammunition, its fuel reserves. Anna Delgado became a name whispered in chow halls and training grounds, not because she was the strongest or the loudest, but because she had been trusted with a small thing, guard duty, and she had done it so well that she stopped a war before it started. Weeks later, when the official commendation came down, her commanding officer looked her in the eye. "You know what the hardest part about guarding something is, Private?" he asked. Anna shook her head. "It's convincing people that it matters. You didn't just guard a room tonight. You reminded all of us that vigilance is what keeps us alive." Anna stood at attention, her expression calm but her heart swelling. She didn't need medals. She didn't need speeches. All she needed was the knowledge that she had done her duty, and that because she had stood her ground, her brothers and sisters in uniform would live to fight another day. That night, as she sat alone cleaning her rifle, Anna whispered the words her father had taught her long ago. "Do the small things well, and the big things will take care of themselves." On the surface, it had been a supply room, but in truth, it had been the wall between survival and disaster. And Anna Delgado had been that wall. That night, a simple guard duty turned into a battle for survival. Private Anna Delgado wasn't supposed to be a hero, but by standing her ground, she stopped a war before it began. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tales of courage and resilience. Because sometimes the smallest assignments create the greatest legends.